be seated. Good afternoon. Misinformation has been circulating on where Virginia Democrats stand on issues related to women's reproductive health. We're here to set the record straight. Virginia Democrats are on the side of ensuring women have access to the health care they need. There's a fundamental difference between us and the Republicans in what we believe on a woman's right to choose. We believe legislators, most of whom are men, should not be making decisions about women's choices for their reproductive health. My Republican friends believe something different, and that is no secret. We can agree to disagree on this topic, but we can be civil about it. As a doctor who has counseled parents of sick children in a hospice, as someone who has given women and families some of the worst news on the worst day of their lives, to play politics with that is just not who we are as Virginians. The new political strategy of the Republican Party is to score points any way they can. Virginia Democrats know we are better than that. We believe that women and their doctors should be trusted with decisions about reproductive health. We believe that Roe versus Wade should remain the law of the land. We believe that reproductive freedom leads to economic freedom for women. Virginia Republicans have long advocated for taking those rights away. They believe that lawmakers should put themselves between a woman and their doctor. We disagree. There is a stark choice, and Virginians time and again have chosen to support women and their reproductive health. These tactics from Virginia Republicans will not change that. Thank you. I would now like to call to the podium our Attorney General, Mark Herring. Mark, thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Desperation can be ugly, and what we've seen from Republicans over the last few days has been desperate, and it has been ugly. For years, Republican legislators have thought up more extreme and complicated ways to put themselves in the way of a woman's right to make her own health care decisions. These Republicans tried to force women to undergo an invasive and demeaning transvaginal ultrasound. They keep trying to close women's health centers that provide cancer screenings and family planning. These Republicans tried to ban some forms of contraception. And these Republican legislators would deny women the right to choose, even in the case of rape and incest. Their political games have exposed a member of the House of Delegates to violent personal threats. And now, Kirk Cox has taken his caucus completely off the deep end, accusing Governor Northam of supporting infanticide, which would be laughable if it wasn't such a grotesque and abhorrent claim. Governor Northam served this country in uniform. He has dedicated his entire life to the welfare of children. So Speaker Cox was right about one thing. Voters do have a choice between Republicans who believe that women are incapable of making their own decisions and Democrats who understand that women have the right to make their own decisions and trust them to make their own decisions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eileen Fillercorn, representing the 41st District and leader of the caucus, Democratic Caucus. For the better part of the last decade, as long as I have served, Republicans have waged an all-out assault on the reproductive freedom of the women of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Time and time again, Republicans have brought forward bills to limit the ability of women to make their own personal health care decisions and insert their judgment between a woman and her physician. Their ultimate goal is to deny women access to reproductive health and freedom. That is the stark difference, as I see it, between our caucus and their caucus. Let's look at the record of the other side. The transvaginal ultrasound bill, the so-called TRAP regulations, which made women's clinic widen their hallways and add extra parking spots. The personhood bill, which would have limited access to contraception. A requirement that a woman who suffers a miscarriage must report that to the police. These are just some of the legislative proposals that we've seen before this General Assembly over the past decade. Unfortunately, some, like mandatory ultrasounds, even when medically unnecessary, actually became law. But make no mistake, House Republicans have used their majority to try and to shame women, to try and to bully and dictate to women what we can and cannot do with our bodies. Yesterday, the theatrics that we witnessed in the House chamber and outside of it was just the latest example in a long line of examples of Republicans putting their anti-woman agenda front and center for all Virginia to see. Virginia women are watching, and Virginia women are paying attention. The Democratic caucus knows that the decisions on reproductive health belongs to women, belongs to their families, belongs to their medical professionals. They don't belong to politicians sitting in a committee room in the General Assembly. Virginia women will not be intimidated by scare tactics. Virginia women will continue to organize. Virginia women will continue to run for office. Virginia women will continue to win. Virginia women will continue to govern. And we all will continue to fight to preserve our rights and our freedoms. Thank you.
Hey, Laura. Yeah, you know, Laura, I have practiced medicine for now over 30 years. I can certainly say as a child neurologist, I have had very difficult conversations with patients and their families during very tragic times. And that is why those discussions should be between a physician, such as myself, and the patient. And it just reaffirms why the legislature, again, most of whom are men, should not be interfering with a woman's access to reproductive health care. So those are the types of discussions that I have. Graham?
Governor, the Republicans say that the bill in question here would lower the standards of weight for enforcement so much that a woman could just felt anxious about being a mom and getting an abortion right before she gave birth. Yeah. Do you think that's what this bill does?
You know, Graham, this particular piece of legislation has been tabled for the year, as you know. I think all of us would agree that we are always willing to look at legislation, make improvements, have discussions, but let's do it in good faith. And these comments that have been made, the questions that have been asked, have been nothing more than political points. And so it is very important that as we move forward, that we have discussions, that we make sure that women do have access to reproductive care, and that legislators, again, as I've said, most of whom are men, shouldn't be interfering with women's access to reproductive care. Alan.
You know, some members of your party have said privately that, maybe one publicly, that your comments yesterday could have been more precise, or they weren't helpful, and that the defensive bill could have been done in a better way. Do you regret what you said yesterday, or the way you said it?
No, I don't. And you know, Alan, I appreciate the question. I'm a physician. I'm also the governor. But when I'm asked questions, a lot of times it is put in the context of being a physician, again, realizing how we approach, how we manage patients, how we offer advice and counseling. So no, I don't have any regrets. But I do find, that how my comments, I did answer that question. I regret that those comments have been mischaracterized. The personal insults toward me, I really find disgusting. So again, as I said in my comments just earlier, we can agree to disagree, Alan, but let's be civil about it.
Thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you all.